and the Knicks are feeling good, and the Nets aren't playing defense. The Knicks put up 60-something points.
Yep,
it was close to 70 points in the first half. And then just like that, Stephen A., they turned it on. Kyrie turned it on. The Nets turned on the defense better than it was certainly in the first half. They win. The Knicks, as we know, they're solid.
And that's the point, New York City. They win. Winners win. I got my man Sam with me. We're about to talk a little hoops. Front Office Podcast. Let's go. Hello, Samuel. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm awesome. You wake up a day after demoralizing the Knicks.
Yep.
And the sun just shines a little bit brighter. I mean, it's a beautiful 65 degrees outside right now in sunny Brooklyn. But it just seems even more stunningly beautiful. Do you hear the birds chirping?
You know, especially after the Knicks, yeah, I might as well beating the Knicks. I might as well be on the beach somewhere. It's great.
I was just walking down the street, and even confronted with my neighbor's dogs just randomly just pooping and peeing on my property. I didn't even feel it. I didn't even care. I walked outside of my gate and I was like, today is a beautiful morning. I really, really, really enjoyed that beating because it wasn't like we pummeled them. We did worse than pummel them last night, Sam. You don't mind if I get right into it, do you?
Do it.
I felt the vibe in my group chats just change when Harden went down. All the Knicks fans were being apologetic and, if we had Mitchell Robinson. But then they saw Harden go down. And when they saw Harden go down, there was a little pep in their step. There was a little. They started talking a little spicy on Twitter, spicy in the group chats. There was a little habanero peppers in their mouth. They started spreading myths about how good and how unstoppable Julius Randle is. And Kyrie Irving had to bring everybody back to reality. Kyrie Irving showed himself to be the most skilled basketball player to ever play in New York City. Maybe to ever play in the NBA. I've never seen anything like it. But with them grabbing a 13-point lead, they had to watch magnificence. They had to root against brilliance. They had to root against basketball genius in order to back their mediocre, purgatory living, just bland tasting vanilla, like not even disrespect to vanilla. Vanilla is delicious. Just seltzer. Just a big thing of seltzer, no flavor. And we took them apart, and I couldn't be happier, Sam. Did I slander the evening in any kind of way?
You know, it's really funny because I think me and you have almost, I wouldn't say opposite, but we have different personalities on Twitter in that you talk a lot of shit to your Knicks fans, and I kind of I kind of go under the radar, and sometimes I'm just more negative and stuff. Mm-hmm. But yesterday, even it wasn't as much on Twitter, but it was in my group chats. Once Harden went down, I said to all my Knicks fan friends, I was like, this is an absolute must win now for you guys. Like, the Nets had a lineup yesterday at one point that was like Chioza, Jeff Green, Johnson. I'm forgetting the other two. There was no Kyrie on the floor. Yep. There was none of the big, like, LaMarcus wasn't there. Blake obviously wasn't even playing. I don't even think Claxton was in. It was just like a ragtag. It was basically the bubble. It was like the bubble Nets, but you could honestly argue it was almost a little worse. And we
had Kyrie. There were lineups out there.
That's what I'm saying.
The
lineup, the lineup itself was just worse than even what the bubble Nets were running. And I was like, you guys have to win this game. And once the Nets extended the lead without Kyrie in the game, it was just like, oh, dude, like, you guys, this is what happens when you guys lack talent. And this is why I did that solo pod about how I just don't really understand the hype train surrounding the Knicks, and it goes in part with one of your tweets, which is about if, like, Julius Randle's your best player. And I'm going to go further. I think if Julius Randle is your third best player, I'm not sure how good you are. Like, he basically has a role right now, which, like, if you call a spade, like, he's in a position where, like, a lot of guys would put up all-star numbers. He's basically in, like, a Ben Simmons, Giannis role, Zion role, where he gets to play point forward and he puts up huge numbers, and his coach plays him 40 minutes a game. Like,
right, and the numbers are empty. The numbers are empty. Like, I'm watching him last night, and I'm like, if that was my best player, I would be really mad.
Yep.
And then on top of it, I'm like, I'm looking at this kid, Obi Toppin, that looks like he's a little athletic. He looks like a gamer, I guess. But if that's who you used, they basically tanked last year, and that's the return of 82 games of pain and disrespect, especially disrespect from Eve.
And on top of that, you're now a year further into the experiment of all these young guys who, as we all know, as we saw with Jared Allen and LeVert and Joe Harris and Dinwiddie, they're getting 1 year closer to actually having to pay them real money. And, like, I got to tell you, like, I don't know how you feel about him, and this obviously isn't a Knicks podcast, but, like, I watch RJ, and, like, I really actually want him to be good because he seems like a really good dude. I like all his comments he says after the game. Like, I liked him in college. I didn't love him, but I liked him. But, like, he goes through games, and I know it's only year 2, but, like, there's, like, 80% of the time you completely forget he's on the court. And even when he's on the court, like, I was hoping they were going to give him the ball. Like, I was like, all right, go. Like, see what you got.
Knicks fans love to say, oh, yeah, your fan base is non-existent. Right. And of course, I'm not gonna sit here and say that, oh, we're one of the deepest fan bases. We got an exclusive group, but it's not non-existent. Here's what's non-existent. RJ Barrett, if that is your hopefully one day third wheel, you see the Nets championship team that they have, they may not win the championship. Yep. Our third best player is it Kyrie Irving? Is a legend.
Eve, let's take it a step further. I'm going to go even further than you are right now, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you think RJ Barrett will be better as an NBA player than the peak of what Dinwiddie or Joe Harris will be?
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's a legitimate question. It's clear to me that RJ Barrett's not a multi-time All-Star. Like, we're at the end of year 2 and he's not sniffing it. So
yeah, maybe look, RJ Barrett, I think he's gonna be like an Evan Turner, Harrison Barnes on a bad team type of player.
That sounds worse than Dinwiddie to me.
Okay, so like, all right. Would you trade Steve Kerr's career? Mind you, Steve Kerr played with the Bulls, championship Bulls, and the championship San Antonio Spurs. Would you trade would you say Steve Kerr had a better career than, let's say, I would never disrespect Baron Davis like that, so I'm not gonna say Baron Davis, but
he did. But he didn't have a. I mean, he won, but he was on good. Good teams.
I got the perfect one. Steve Smith.
I think Steve Smith probably had a better career. Kerr just was on. I mean, Kerr is a really good role player, but
I'm just saying I might want that. I mean, because that's kind
you're
of
saying. You're talking about
that's kind of Joe Harris's trajectory. I'm just saying, Joe Harris is going to be a very important player who's going to hit important shots on a legendary team.
Yep.
RJ Barrett is going to be a borderline all-star on very mediocre teams. Mediocre to bad teams. Right? Like, let's look at a team that's built pretty well, like the Denver Nuggets. They have an all-world player in Jokic. Jokic is a phenomenon. Like,
yep.
They've got a top 10 point guard in Murray who shows something, right? They have an upcoming all-star, not superstar, but maybe a superstar, who knows, in Michael Porter Jr.
Yep.
And then they have all these good little pieces around that. Do you know how far the Knicks are from that?
Yep.
Like, when they're telling me, oh, it's a positive trend and we're going in this direction and we got this going for us, I just don't see it. Like, they should have beat us last night.
Without our two best guys.
Without our two best guys and without a few pieces on the bench that we need.
Yeah, arguably two of the three most important bench, I think Tyler's unbelievably important. Shamet has been playing much better, and Blake has been actually really good on offense since he got here.
Absolutely, and they're there to plug the holes that is left from KD and Harden not being there, and for them to be up 13 and lose. Yep. And excuse me. I just thought that, like, right now they're going through the 5 stages of depression, which is right now they're in denial. They're telling themselves the Nets don't exist. That's their number one. That's their first go-to one. They don't have any fans. They don't matter. Who cares? I'm just gonna watch my Knicks every night and never give up. And then in a couple days after they lose to Boston, then they're gonna start realizing, like, the sham that all of this is. Like they have Obi Toppin when they should have drafted Tyrese Halliburton. They could have gotten Sadiq Bey. They could have gotten, like, a number of players that we wish we would have used our pick to have gotten that were good. There was value in that draft. And now they went and drafted a player that plays the same position as the player that's their superstar. So he can't even learn on the job. He can't even, like, just take his lumps and figure this out, because he plays the same position as the guy that's averaging 40 a night for them.
Do you know how you know that the Knicks that the Knicks situation is not nearly as, like, great as they're making it out to be? Because if you told Knicks fans that anybody on the team, and this includes Randall, was traded, I don't think there would be actual like real devastation across them. There's no like these guys are fleeting, moving pieces,
right?
And there's no true like this is cornerstone, and that's how you know that someone's like a cornerstone. I don't even think the way that